Linda, can you hear me, Linda?
I can now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you too, Linda. Sounds great.
Excellent.
Good deal. You ready to have some fun?
I am absolutely ready.
Okay, let me open the show and let's get to this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the No Cover TV podcast. That's right, I'm your host, Big Al, and I take that original local and national music and I just shove it in your face. You need to hear it. There's all genres, all age groups, all around the world. Great music everywhere, every corner. It's unbelievable the artists that I talk to and deal with on a daily basis. And I thank you. They talk to me about music or business, but please check out the past shows and, of course, the future shows. We're booked till July, and this old man's got to take a month off, and then we're back. We're booked till Christmas time. Amazing. We got to get the story out there. I'll leave it up to you to get to the music. A lot of great music out there. Please use my three favorite words: support, support, support. Support these artists and in their endeavors and what they do. Go to the shows, pay the cover charge if there's a cover charge. Buy the swag, t-shirts, coffee mugs, hats, the albums, the CDs, maybe even DVDs, or even digital downloads. Grab them. Get a hold of these artists. And like I say, if you're in the car, turn that radio down, stick your head out the window, and take a listen. A lot of great music out there. Don't pass it up. Don't pass it up. So, enough of me running at the mouth. We've got a real good show for you, a great show for you today. And we have a very talented artist. Yes, in the house, all the way from Boston, is Linda Marks. How you doing, Linda?
Great, Al, and delighted to be here.
It's delightful to have you on today. I'm still trying to wake up. It's a little early for me.
Uh-huh.
So, anyways, Linda, you're a multi-award winning singer-songwriter. You're a very busy person.
That is true. The I have two different professions. Being a singer-songwriter, sadly, no matter how many awards you win, doesn't pay all the bills. So I also work as a mind-body psychotherapist, and they're both from the heart, and they nurture each other very well.
They do. I was listening to your music and everything, and it all has a meaning to it. Yes,
Yes,
it
it does.
does.
Mm-hmm.
It's very beautiful, very beautiful. So we're going to talk a little bit, but first, I don't know if you listen to the show at all. I'm going to pick on you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to take you in that little spacecraft in my mind, in my head here, in yours, and we're going to go back in time. And I want to know what Linda was doing and listening to at 16 years old.
At 16 years old, well, I
Mm-hmm.
had at least bought my own piano. I My first word was
Oh,
piano as a little girl, but my parents didn't have one, and they wanted to do everything they could to keep me from getting one. So I learned recorder, I learned violin. I became the girl percussionist in the grammar school band. When I was 11, I'd saved up enough money to buy a guitar so I could start writing my music with the guitar. And at 13, I finally had enough money to buy my own piano. So at 16, I was writing at the piano. And
wow.
I was singing. I sang a lot of different places, but I spent quite a lot of time at the piano. I learned as many Scott Joplin rags as I possibly could. I liked music of all different genres, but what I would do is go on our 2 season freezing during the winter, and actually more like 1 season porch. And it was freezing most of the year, but I'd go out when no one was home and I'd passionately play music and write songs. So that's what I was doing at 16.
That's amazing. Or most of us kids were just screwing off at that
Hmm. I
time.
also had a job at Boston's baseball stadium, Fenway Park. I was able to get that when I was 14 because I loved the Red Sox, and I used to take public transportation to the ballpark when I was pretty young. In the world of 2024, I don't think any parent can imagine their young teenage daughter taking public transportation into the heart of Boston to go see
No.
baseball, but I loved it. And I actually spoke to one of the guards one day and said, I'd love to work here. And it turned out I walked into the commissary office at just the right moment where they were being sued for nepotism, where they only had people
Oh,
from two towns and they needed someone who was female who wasn't associated with either of those towns right away. And in walked me. So I ended up getting hired because I was female and I wasn't related to either town or anyone who ran the business. So that's what led to me working at Fenway Park, selling souvenirs, which was also fun when I was 16.
That's amazing. That's really fun. I kind of had a similar thing, but that was with race cars, handing out pamphlets during the races.
Cool.
Yes, and it is cool to do that. And so you started very early with the piano and stuff. Was that the main instrument? Like you said, your first word, I guess that's what you wanted to play?
That's what I wanted to play. So I enjoyed being a percussionist because I've always liked the rhythm aspect of stuff. And while I was told I was gifted and talented in the recorder program for 3-year-olds and I could do the violin, neither of those are my instrument. So once I finally had my hands literally on my own piano, I didn't look back at anything else.
And didn't you say the parents didn't want you to have that?
No, because my father's mantra is music is a waste of a good mind. He was
Mm,
totally freaked out that he had this daughter who almost from the get-go was passionate about music because he was always afraid that no one can make a living as a musician. But the
yeah,
point at hand is, yeah, that's true. A very, very small percentage of people can make a decent living just by playing and writing music. Many people
very.
have applied music professions like being sound engineers, which you can make a living at, but that doesn't matter. If somebody has a passion inside and it's who they are, they have to express it. They have to be who they are. And to constantly squish down the spirit of a little girl only results in trauma. It doesn't dissuade someone from eventually saying, this is me. I have to be me, whether you like me or not.
I totally agree with you. I was in a similar situation with my mother. I played the guitar; she didn't like it, so I turned it up even more. So, but same
You were much
mentality.
more bold. I can't say I was that bold. Unfortunately, part of the way my family situation was led me to being out on the streets, and at risk. And actually something horrible happened on the way home from Fenway Park one night where a stranger attacked me coming out of the shadows and I almost lost my life. And I won't go into that in great detail, but the message for me was it was a turning point where I really needed to commit to my sense of mission and purpose. And, the fact that I was able to tell someone who wanted to kill me that I forgave him as he was strangling me and beating me in the alley. I made that commitment and I've had an incredibly purposeful life since then because I realized that life was a gift and it helped me have the inner strength to fight whatever dragons I had to fight, whether it's strangers who want
Yeah.
to kill you or, really angry fathers who tell you music is a waste of a good mind when it's the only thing you really want to do. So,
Yes.
I became a strong person and I've tried to create good and healing with whatever I've done over the course of my life. And my music is very much, from the heart to the heart at the heart of our times. And I try to write songs that are going to make a difference and touch the heart of the listener.
And that you do. Beautiful music. And I'm so sorry for the things you've been through. I have my own demons myself, and I was in a
Mm-hmm.
similar situation in 2001 and almost lost my life. I survived. But
Mm-hmm.
it's, music is what brought me through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My love for music and the passion, that would never leave my body. And I don't think your heart either.
Nope. I wrote a song when I was in grammar school called My Music Is Me. So, even as a very, very small child, I knew that. And it was my first language. I didn't talk until I was 3. But as a toddler, I would toddle to any piano I could find and start writing music.
Oh, that is wonderful. So you have a lot of songs under your belt. Yes, you
Yes, I
do.
do. Yes, I do. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had a life-threatening experience as well.
Well, I kicked ass and made it. So that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But you don't get to release those demons very easily, so you still live with them. Yes.
Well, that's part of why I'm a mind body psychotherapist because my specialty is helping people heal from trauma. And I'm very
Beautiful.
grateful that that is one of the things I can help people with.
Sweet. And No Cover TV takes August off, and we make that mental health month where we take care of everybody from musicians to the regular people. And we have shows about the mental health and how there is help, and you can talk to somebody. You're not alone out there.
That's
No.
a wonderful, wonderful thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. we all suffer from it, I think, in a little way, but a lot of us don't want to admit to it because it still has a stigma. Yes,
Which is
indeed.
really unfortunate.
Well,
We have this is not an easy world to live in. And I would say that it's harder now than it's ever been while I've been alive. It's a much more confused, scary, harder to survive world. And it wasn't like it was ever super easy, but it's much harder now. And the pandemic took a toll on a lot of people's mental health when it turned the world inside out, and the world's not the same. So I don't know many people that don't struggle, and to have to suffer in silence is doubly painful. It's painful enough to suffer in silence and alone makes it even more painful and sometimes unbearable. So
yeah,
to me, it's very important to say we're all human. No one should have to do it all alone, and things can be really hard, and we deserve support.
I totally agree. I totally agree. So that's gonna be another subject. August comes, you're gonna come back on. We're gonna discuss this.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get on with you. All right. So, okay, piano and going on. So you obviously went to college to be a psychotherapist.
I actually went to college to Yale and founded Yale's third women's a cappella singing group with three other
Wow.
women when I was a 17-year-old freshman, and it's still there. And I majored in music because
Really?
I just needed to. There was a man who was chairman of the music department who was the only songwriter in the music department, but he was an amazing one. His name was Maury Yeston, and he was a Broadway musical writer, and he was in the process of writing a Broadway musical that ended up getting a Tony. And
Oh,
so he was sort of the one person, I could relate to because he was a songwriter when I was there. Most
mhm.
people were classically trained and from more wealthy families than I was. I was a kid who, worked during the summers, worked while I was at school, worked, not only at school, but to also have some money. And I gave myself the gift of majoring in music. I did also minor in psychobiology, so there was the psychology side. But in order to get a full major, I would have had to take a class where I would have had to dissect a cat, and I wasn't willing to do that.
Oh,
So
yeah, I can understand that. They
yeah,
shouldn't have to do that, but
no.
so
I understand it's just like when people go to medical school, they dissect corpses,
yeah.
but I'd already dissected a frog and a rat, and the rat wasn't even actually two of the creatures I had to dissect, one frog and one rat, weren't all the way dead when they gave them to me, and they
Oh
jumped
no.
overboard. And I sure as heck wasn't going to do that to a cat. So
Right. No, 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 no. Okay. Wow. All right. Let's jump onto some music. Now, you've been busy. Okay. We're today here now. 15 albums are we on?
I am currently recording my 15th studio album. It will come out January
15.
1st, 2025, and I'm writing songs for the 16th studio album.
Oh, my. Oh, I'm impressed. That is beautiful. Now, this latest one, what is it? A Recipe for Hope?
A Recipe for Hope. Yep.
Yeah.
Most of us could use a nice big helping of hope in our world today.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Now, how many songs are on that album?
12. I generally put
12.
12 on an album. It just seems like it's a nice number.
I like that. I like that.
An even
Now,
dozen.
it even does. There we go. Now, the album A Recipe for Hope. What was the meaning behind this album?
The title song is where it started. When I was a little girl, I had a chemistry experiment, and the teacher gave us a blank white piece of paper and a prism and told us that if we angled the prism just right, we could bend the sunlight and burn a hole in the paper. And that to
Uh,
me, as a little girl, a little grammar school age kid, seemed like magic. I called it alchemy.
uh,
And I, at first, I saw her do it and was amazed. And then I tried and I tried. I tried to figure out which angle and how to do it. But when I eventually gave up trying and just used my intuition, I actually was able to do it. And for me, that was a metaphor for how we can use our creative power and our vision to transform pain into gold or sorrow into gold, to make things happen in the world and create things that aren't there. Because the fact that the raw materials of the sunlight are invisible, but they're there if we only know how to work the alchemy, it gave me a template. And that was the inspiration when I wrote that song. I called the song A Recipe for Hope because it's where a lot of my inspiration came from as someone who's lived with vision. I wrote a book that came out on my 30th birthday called Living with Vision, Reclaiming the Power of the Heart. And so in essence, writing a collection of songs, many of which are uplifting and hopeful songs, others simply addressing issues at the heart of our times. I
Mhm.
focused on a collection, and one could say the album is a cookbook, a recipe for hope.
I like that. I like that a lot. And like you're saying, sometimes you're doing something and you just can't get it. Got to step back a little bit and think about it and come back to it. And usually figure it
Absolutely.
out.
And
Yeah.
sometimes even to turn off the mind and turn it over to the intuition, because my
Yeah.
mind can think of 50 zillion things and none of them might be right. And if I
Right.
don't use my mind and I just use my intuition and sort of feel something out, I can figure it out. And then it always feels miraculous that way.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It is
It
pretty cool.
is cool.
Our mind can do amazing things. That's for
It
sure.
can. Absolutely.
It is. Okay. So working on that 60, when is that going to come out? Do you know?
The
Possibly?
16th one, right now I'm putting them out one a year. There was a time I put out a couple a year when I was working with a local producer and it was more affordable. But I work with a multi-Grammy winning sound engineer out of Philly. His name is Glenn Barrett of Morningstar Studios, and Eric Balti of
Nice.
Hudson Harding Music, who's the man for promoting to the global folk DJ community. He's involved in the albums with me as well. And we
Beautiful.
do really, really, really high quality albums worthy of Grammy submission. So it's very important to me to do them really well. But in order to afford it, it takes a payment plan over an entire year. So even if I've written enough songs to do 2 albums, I have to pace the albums one per year right now.
Yeah, it's not cheap anymore, but it's good to have professional producers, engineers in your corner that can really take your music to another level.
Exactly. And it just feels so much better to listen to music that's been really, really well produced. Like I love arranging and I love, orchestrating. I'm not a sound engineer, although with my local sound engineer, when I work with him to edit, I sit with him and we listen to every single note of every single part and edit everything together. And a couple songs that are going to be on my 2025 album, one of them I had produced entirely differently. I wrote a song called Sanctuary, and I have something called the Sanctuary Project, which is a whole other piece to talk about. I like to do benefit concerts and I run different artist alliance groups. And last November, an artist alliance group called Women in Music Gathering did its 6th annual benefit concert, and we chose domestic violence as our cause. So two
Okay.
local to my area domestic violence organizations, one called Casa Myrna and one called Respond Inc., were the beneficiaries. And I had wonderful people from the two organizations teaming up with me as we were getting ready for the show, because I wanted to write a song for the show that was relevant to domestic violence. So they both gave me stories of domestic violence survivors, and I listened to the stories, and their words informed my lyrics. And I wrote a song called Sanctuary, which we premiered at the November 5th show at one of Boston's, top venues for independent artists. And it was really powerful. And part of what I really came to feel deeply inside, through that whole process was that sadly, domestic violence, I grew up with it myself. It transcends all boundaries. Whether, no matter what your age, your gender, your race, your socioeconomic background, your geography. Unfortunately, it's everywhere in the world. So I
Yeah.
wanted to do something more global with the song, and I created what I call the Sanctuary Project. And I worked with a number of my fellow Recording Academy colleagues and friends, and we put together what I call the global version of the song. And we're going to release the mastered version on all digital platforms on August 23rd of this year to honor my deceased mom, who also, lived through domestic violence in my very same household. And
Hmm.
we have 4 different events that are part of the project. On June 23rd, I'm releasing A Recipe for Hope we're having the release show. The album was released earlier this year, but the release concert is the 23rd at the Burren in Somerville, Massachusetts. And my
Wow.
fantastic fiddler, Alice Hasten from Memphis, who plays on my albums, is coming up to open the show, as well as play in my concert. But I'm in the process of making a video with images, some provided by one of the nonprofits, some from my own photographs, that go with the lyrics of the song, and we'll premiere the video on June 23rd for Sanctuary. So then there's the digital release on August 23rd. On September 15th, my fellow Big Records artist Randy O'Neill and I are doing a concert at a venue called One Broadway Collaborative in Lawrence, Massachusetts. It's a fundraiser for the 2 domestic violence nonprofits. And then October 1st, which is the beginning of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I'm going to be doing a special live stream for the Sanctuary Project. I'm looking to get little statements from some of my fellow artists about the importance of Sanctuary for domestic violence survivors. And I'm looking to put together, some special things to basically spread the song as far and wide as I can. So that is one of the songs on my 2025 album is called The Silence of the Stars. The title song is the story, a love affair of a little girl and a piano. It's my story of how I got my piano and had to overcome the demon of my father saying music is a waste of a good mind. So it's a powerful song. And another song that I'm producing with Doug Hammer, who's my local sound engineer, is one that's more in the the Latin jazz pocket. It's called No Time for Dreams. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, dreamy song that takes place in one of my favorite places where there's water. There's a bridge over the Charles River in Waltham, Massachusetts, which is the town I live in. And on one side, there's a waterfall. On the other side, there's a big expanse, and there are waterfowl on both sides. And one of the things I love to do is walk down to that river, even though it's a bit of a walk, and just stand on the bridge looking down. So that's where I wrote the song No Time for Dreams.
Incredible, Linda. Incredible. I mean, do you have time to sleep?
Well, I don't get a ton of sleep, mostly because I have to get up at 5:30 a.m. because my son is a teacher. He works at a charter school in Malden, Massachusetts, and I'm his ride. So in order to get him to his teaching job, I have to get up at 5:30. So it makes, if I can get 6 hours of sleep, I'm very happy.
Right. I agree. Definitely. You're doing so much. And like you say here, you're a healer at the heart. I mean, you are doing so many wonderful things for not just yourself, but for everybody out there that goes through any type of pain or anything like that. I love it. And you're also involved with some nonprofit stuff. What was the Upstage Lung Cancer?
Upstage Lung Cancer, yeah. I'm not involved with all of them at the same time. There was a time I was on the board of Upstage Lung Cancer, and I wrote a song for one of their benefits. I've also done a lot with Buddy Dog Humane Society.
Yeah.
I actually have a corgi and 7 kitties, and of my 7 kitties, I have 2 Maine Coons, 2 Siberians, and 3 rescues. And Buddy Dog Humane Society is a wonderful rescue. So I actually wrote a song for them for a benefit concert one year, and I've also done benefit concerts to benefit them. And my son and I have even volunteered there. So
that's pretty cool. I love it. I love it. Now, I was noticing when I'm looking at your page and checking things out, you got quite a few fans out there that love you. What do you think of that?
I'm grateful for that. It's like many of us, no matter how hard we work, can feel invisible. And when people show up and they like things, it's a real gift.
It is. It is. And let's take a break for a second. Why don't you tell everybody out in podcast land what platforms they may find your music?
I'm on all digital streaming platforms. So pick your favorite: Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Pandora, you name it. I'm on all the digital platforms. But what my favorite platform is YouTube, because in addition to my albums, which are all there, I make quite a few different videos. I do everything from, hi, I'm at my piano, I just finished a song, this is on my iPhone at my old upright piano, to I'm in the studio and I'm making a gorgeous studio video on a phenomenal piano that has just the right miking, so it sounds really good and looks really good, to here's an excerpt from a show, to here's a lyric video for a song from my album. So I love the YouTube channel because I can put all kinds of content on, and my YouTube channel is LSM Heart, so LSMHEART. So that's my favorite place. And actually, I prefer to listen to music on YouTube as well, just because I like watching people's videos. Um,
Yeah.
and what was I going to say about my music too? Um, my website is lindamarksmusic.com, and there's, all kinds of content on it. I tend to make websites like encyclopedias because so much happens. Like I hate just throwing out everything I did for the last 20 years just to have what's happening today. So I don't put
Right.
everything up, but it's sort of fun looking back on some of the stuff on that. But
That's pretty cool.
it's very easy to find me. Just Google me and you'll find me on whatever your favorite platform is.
So look for Linda Marks out there, everybody. Definitely check out the music. You're gonna love it. And it's nice with YouTube. It's kind of like your own video diary.
Yeah, it is. It's like a video diary. And the other thing I do that's a little bit, it's sort of a cross between a podcast and a video diary, is when the pandemic shut down live gigs in March of 2020, I started a weekly live stream called Songs from the Heart, Meditations for the Heart. And I never imagined that I'd be in year 5 of that live stream. But in the
Wow.
very beginning of the pandemic, it was all that could be done. And people were asking me to do something to uplift their spirits. And usually when people say it, if I can, I do. And when it first started, Facebook was very generous of opening up who could see it. I could have 2,500 people watching me from around the world.
Whoa.
I've
Wow.
made lots of friends. But as we've moved further and further out from the pandemic and into an era where they want you to buy ads, now it
Yeah.
isn't like that anymore. Even, if I've had the live stream up and people watch it on replay, to have 600 people is, a nice total when I could have 2,500 people,
It's
way back when the pandemic started.
it's too bad they limit that. That's too bad. It is. It is. Everybody needs to be seen and heard. I agree. All right. I'm going to talk about some music here in a second, a few other things, but I got some fun questions I want to ask you.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Which one do I want to hit you with first? All right. Why not this one right here? You get 2 answers. A person that's alive, a person that is past. Who do you want to grace the stage with if you could?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Well, who's alive is Carole King, because I have
Oh,
curly blonde hair and I play the piano and I'm a singer-songwriter. And when I was a little girl, she was part of the singer-songwriter movement with
yeah.
Joni Mitchell and James Taylor and Gordon Lightfoot. And
Oh,
and because of the curly hair, everyone said I should cover her, which I do. I've covered some of her songs on some of my albums, and I actually did a show that was Carole King too. So I think it would be a natural. And once a musical colleague of mine, maybe 8 years ago, photoshopped a photo of James Taylor and Carole King's hair and put my face in the hair and posted it. And people said, "How did you get the gig with James Taylor?" So I did that.
right.
So that's the obvious one for someone who's still alive. For someone who's dead, that is a really interesting question.
Yeah.
I guess what I might say, oh boy, is it Gordon Lightfoot or is it Burt Bacharach? I know they're completely different, but they both were important to me in different ways. I love Gordon Lightfoot. I've recorded some of his songs. Beautiful is one of my favorite songs of his, and I recorded it with a jazz arrangement that's really gorgeous. And I actually gave him the album in a concert the year that album came out. And then, of course, I covered If You Could Read My Mind, which is one of my most listened to songs, because I think a lot of people really just love that song. And I love the arrangement I did of it. So Gordon Lightfoot, I would love to share the stage with. And the reason Burt Bacharach is when I was a really, really, really little kid, Dionne Warwick was singing the Burt Bacharach songbook, and I loved her. And it made me go get the songbook back in the days where you got physical songbooks. And I learned every single Burt Bacharach Hal David song and sang them. I've actually recorded a few of those too. So it would be fun to be on the stage with him, and maybe, I play the piano, but he was a pianist as well as a composer. It would be fun for him to play the piano and me to sing his songs.
He was a great artist. I love Burt Bacharach. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Boy, I love that. All right, let's go to this next question here. 2 answers on this. Anywhere in the world, what stage would you like to perform on?
That's a really interesting question too. Well, when I was in my 20s and also, right before my book came out, I used to go to London a lot to perform. Well, actually, I did public speaking and led workshops. I did go to London and I did some singing when I met my son. He was studying in Czechoslovakia and we met in London one summer. But I think it would be really fun to, to find a big hall in London and perform there. But here's a whole other answer to that question. My sound engineer, Doug Hammer, when we're working on the reverb for a song we're producing, he
Hmm.
has software that has the sounds of a lot of different halls that just sound really good. And I would need
Oh,
to go back to Doug, and they're all over the world, these halls. There are certain halls where the reverb and my voice go really, really well together. So I'd need to go to Doug and say, hey, Doug, could you give me the names of some of those halls? And I
hmm.
would probably want to perform live in the halls where the reverb works really well with my voice.
Yeah. I can see you being in a opera setting hall.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. My
Yeah.
paternal grandmother was an opera singer, which makes it even more interesting that my father was so freaked out of me becoming a musician or being a musician. And
Wow.
so, anyhow, yeah, when I was actually at Yale, they wanted me to train for opera because I had a 4-octave range and I had the coloratura soprano range. The only
Mm.
problem is I was more interested in being a singer-songwriter, and I can't say, I knew much opera or particularly liked it. So,
Yeah.
just because they see that you have potential for something, but it would be fun to be in an opera house being a singer-songwriter.
Yeah, yeah. It takes a certain person to be an opera singer. I'll give them that for sure.
Yeah,
For sure. All right.
yeah.
How about this one right here? I like the answer to this question right here. Okay. Let's say you're out performing and you got a good sized crowd out there and you start hitting those notes and start singing. People start moving, swaying a little bit, possibly dancing.
Hmm.
Maybe, maybe they're singing your songs to you. When you hear that, see that, how's it bounce back and hit that heart? How's it make your heart feel?
My heart would be shining and radiating incredible joy. I'd probably have tears in my eyes, but I'd also be super happy because I write a lot of songs to bring people together. And I call them anthemic songs. I have a lot of anthemic songs. Love Always Wins is on A Recipe for Hope, and it's won so many awards I
Right.
can't even keep track of it anymore. I'm blown away by that. But to have a room of people singing a song like Love Always Wins, or I wrote
Yeah.
another song called Be the Light on my home album. When people sing it, I feel like now we're actually really connecting heart to heart.
Yeah.
We're healing. It's like a group of people connected through music like that are making the world a better place.
Totally agree. Totally agree with you there. Now, what do I got here? Oh, look at there. ISSA Awards. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah. You're going to win. I know you are.
Thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate that. It's really interesting. I mean, there's so many amazing people in ISSA. There really
yeah.
are so many people that are wonderful, and you're one of them. And I'm
Oh,
just really grateful for the community. That it's a very collaborative community, which I love. And
yeah.
everyone can be themselves. Everybody can be different. It doesn't matter what your genre is. It's everyone just has that pure love and passion for music, and it makes it a
Yes.
really special place.
It is very special. People, elected people, we're all doing the same thing in our own way, and we support each
Yes,
other. Yeah.
absolutely. And that's
It's beautiful.
it's like with the voting, I love voting for everybody else. Of course I want to win too, but I want everyone to win. It's like for
Right.
me, the best thing would be a stage full of people and celebrating, the things that are special that every person is doing.
That's right. Everybody actually deserves a trophy for their hard work.
I
Hmm.
totally agree. I totally agree. And independent artists have to work extra hard. So, any
Yeah.
recognition that can be given. And I really appreciate all that Tammany has created because she's really doing tons to uplift and help independent artists.
Yeah, she's doing a great job. Great job. Yes. All right. Let's talk about a couple songs here. And you mentioned a few of them, but I'm going to hit this one right here.
Hmm.
Facebook Songwriters Blues.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. What's
Yeah.
going on with that?
Yeah, that's actually a true story. I call it a sad and true songwriter's tale of algorithms and bots.
Yeah.
During the
So,
pandemic, oh, I think it was my home album. Um, I couldn't give an album release concert because the venues were closed and no one went out to live music. So what I
right.
decided is I'd play the tracks of my songs on my Facebook live stream, and then I'd sing along to the tracks of my songs. But Facebook didn't think that was okay. They basically said that I was breaking copyright law when it was my
Okay.
own music, because their algorithms and bots can't tell when the person singing the song is the person that wrote them and owns the copyright. So I made it into a really funny song that a lot of people like.
It's cute. I really liked that. I enjoyed that. Okay. Now, I definitely have to bring this up. Love Always Wins. Number one in the UK. It's just a very popular song.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah.
It was a finalist in the Great American Song Contest, which is one of the biggest industry song contests that only like a fraction of 1% are finalists. And I just found out a day or two ago that it won a gold medal in the One Earth Music Awards, which I didn't even know. Someone from Russia said, "Did you know that you won gold?" And I was like, "Really?"
Wow.
So it's won some other things too. It's like it's sort of, oh, it won a world songwriting award as well. But I think it won a couple of things in Europe. I start losing track of the awards, but it's quite humbling. Like, wow, every now and then, to write something that really strikes a chord like that. And I co-wrote it with my Philadelphia singer-songwriter friend and colleague, Lisa Jeanette. And it was really fun for us to work on it. And because my studio that I do my albums on is in Philly, when it was time to record Love Always Wins, I said to Lisa, come in the studio and you can sing it too with me. So I'm so excited about that arrangement. And Alice Hazen, my phenomenal violinist from Memphis, is violin on that song too. So the whole arrangement is just out of this world, and the message is a great message for our times.
It is a very great message, and I think that's going to stay at the top for quite some time. Yes, indeed.
Thank you. I hope so. More than anything, I hope that people actually listen to the message and it uplifts them, and perhaps it inspires them to bring a little more love into the world.
There you go. I agree with you. We need more love in the world. Yes, we do. All right, how about this song here? No Time for Dreams. You mentioned that earlier.
Yes. That will be on my album, the Silence of the Stars album. And there's a version of it on YouTube, because I do everything on YouTube. I have a studio video on YouTube, but we're working on the arrangement right now. My saxophonist, Willie Sordillo, who's a wonderful, extraordinary human being, as well as saxophonist. He just sent the sax tracks in. And the person who's working on the guitar, the drum, and the bass, we're waiting for him to give the tracks in. And in this case, Doug Hammer, who's my local sound engineer, who's a phenomenal, gifted, award-winning person too. He's a phenomenal composer and pianist, and I'm a singer-songwriter pianist. So I'm letting him do the Latin jazz licks on the recording that we're doing. And I'm just focused on singing.
That's real cool. I'm liking that. That is real cool. Now, I know you're playing around Boston and stuff in areas. Are you planning to try to get out of state a little bit and do some singing, like a tri-state tour?
It's hard to do that very often because of the responsibilities of my life. When I have a son who's a teacher and I have to get up at 5:30 to take him to work each day, it's a little hard to travel. And likewise, when I have 7 cats and a dog, pet sitting is quite expensive.
Oh, yes.
So it's a little hard. Every now and then, though, if I had the opportunity to set up, like, go to a city and play a bunch of gigs, that would be really, really fun. So
that would be.
Yeah, it would be really fun. And I really love to do house concerts. This Saturday, I am doing one in Lincoln, Massachusetts. Someone who was a musical duo partner of mine, and actually trio partner of mine before the pandemic, and who moved out west in 2020. His name is Mark Bishop Evans, and he's a fine guitarist and singer-songwriter. He's back east right now for the first time, and he and I will be playing together on Sunday in a house concert, which will be a lot of fun.
Oh, cool. House concerts are always fun, right? Personal and up close. Exactly. I love that.
I even ran a house concert series myself for 6.5 years until the pandemic shut it down. And even though I have a very modest home, people still love to come because there's a whole spirit of hospitality. And what I do is I'm a cook, and I love to make beautiful, healthy food. So I'd make like a foundation of beautiful, healthy food and then have it a potluck so there'd be more food than just what I made. And we'd always open with either an artist, a visual artist, or a poet or writer would do something over dinner. And then there'd be the music portion, and I'd do some music, but I'd also bring in a special guest musician. And what was amazing is the reputation of, it was called the Music Salon. It spread, and people who were internationally touring musicians would write to me saying, I'm coming to the United States, I'd like to play there. And, you know, the only problem is if they're trying to make a certain level of cost and I have a modest home, I could give them a really enthusiastic audience who they'd love playing for. But if they, you know, one actually, this was someone from the US who was coming up from Tennessee, and they booked me and wanted to play. And I had to say, how much money are you looking for? And the number they gave me is not what you could generate in a modest home. And, you know, I said, you know, here's how many people come. And, you know, I ask if a person can give $20, please do, but some people can't. So I take whatever they donate. So if you need $750, you know, to play, my house isn't big enough to have that many people.
Right.
So,
and that's kind of a hard thing right now. And I've dealt with this for the 30 years of doing everything, making money at the business. You know, when you go into a venue, well, then there's the cover charge, and you might get a little bit of that, or you might get a little flat pay or pay for tickets. It's really strange in this country sometimes.
It is strange. And the thing too, that it blew me away. Like when I first started to come to realize this, I was like, oh my God, when here I write the music, I arrange the music, I spend all the money and put in all the time to produce the album. Then I hire the musicians and I have to pay them well because they deserve it, you know, and the venue, of course, has to have a cost for their sound engineer. And, you know, and then they take a percentage of the tickets. But the long and short of it is a venue with 100 people, you know, if you sell it out, I'm lucky if I break even and don't lose money because of all the costs. It's crazy.
It is. It used to tick me off. I actually at the end of the night would reach in my own pocket and pay them with my own money just because I felt bad. Why should security and paid first? I know they're there doing a job, but the band is doing a bigger job. Making the crowd enjoy their time and buy drinks.
Yep, I pay my band, and unfortunately, very often I lose money having already invested so much in doing something. And it's very broken. It's a very broken thing where, you know, if you're a singer-songwriter and you want to put a show together, everything is on you. So many costs are on you, and the way to make the money isn't really apparent.
All right. Still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Good. Yeah, okay. Just had a little glitch, but we're all right. Good deal. We're at 42 minutes, so we got a few more minutes to talk. You were talking about some other people, but collaborations, you've done quite a bit. You want to shout out to some people you collaborated with?
Well, I collaborate in different kinds of way. In terms of co-writing, in addition to Lisa Jeanette, I have a dear friend and fellow lyricist from New York City named Mike Greenlee, and we've co-written 3 songs together. We co-write the lyrics and I write the music. And one of our songs it's on one of my albums that's out there. Let There Be Love is on my 2023 album, Everyday Legends. And 2 songs we wrote are going to be on The Silence of the Stars. One is called Be the Change, and the other is called Learn to Really See a Flower, that was inspired by a poem by Georgia O'Keeffe that I had up on my wall for many years in my therapy office, where she talked about no one really sees a flower because to really see takes time, like to have a friend takes time. And I just thought that was so beautiful. So that's where I started writing the song and the lyrics from. And then I invited Mike to join me. So he and I have collaborated and will continue to. There's someone named Claire Steffen who has a group called Round the Globe for music. And I am in the process of writing something with her. It's taking a little time. And then Lisa Wexler is a dear friend and soul sister of mine who I met in the Arlington, Massachusetts laundromat during her rinse cycle when I was 21 and she was 26. And we ended up that very afternoon at my piano in Arlington, and we became singing, songwriting collaborators and friends. And for about 3 years, we worked together and we'd write music together. I did the arranging, we performed. And over the years, you know, we've stayed very close friends. And there's a song of hers that I'm working on an arrangement of. So, you know, those are just a few more beyond the ones that I mentioned: Lisa Jeanette, Mark Bishop Evans, you know, right now, I'm very grateful to be working with Alice Hasten as my violinist, and I have a couple different cellists. I pair violin and cello in my arrangements, and Alice is just absolutely phenomenal. She has an amazing career that she's been building, so well deserved. She does tour, unlike me. But it's a real pleasure whenever there's a song to have her put her violin on it. And Willie Sordillo, who is an extraordinary person who I've known for many years, he played saxophone in this amazing choral group called the Mystic Chorale that I joined when my son was in kindergarten because he wanted me to do it. And in those days, I couldn't do concerts because I was a single mom starting when he was
Right.
2 3/4. So Willie was an amazing person, an amazing saxophonist. And having him, play saxophone on my songs. And I did a really fun and big show in February at a place called the Fallout Shelter in Norwood, Massachusetts, which is an amazing venue. It's like none other I've ever gone to. And I brought Doug Hammer along. I brought Doug Portlew, who plays guitar and bass and drum and is a singer-songwriter and genius himself. Both of the Dougs are geniuses, so I'm grateful for them. And if I bring another pianist like Doug, it means for about half the songs I'll play the piano, but the other half I'll step away from the piano so that I can really front the band and focus 100% on the audience, which is different when you're behind a piano.
Right.
But, so that was a wonderful collaboration with those three musicians. And I've had about a 15-year collaboration with Doug Hammer because up until I started making my albums with Eric and with Glenn, and I think they exclusively have done 2 albums and are working on a third, but I had them involved in the 2 before that. I did all my albums with Doug Hammer. So it's a very important collaboration to co-produce an album with another musician sound engineer.
Wow. Wow. Linda, you are doing amazing things and keep doing that and producing this beautiful music for me. Please keep going.
Thank you. Well, it's who I am. And when my mom died 10 years ago, I made the commitment to myself that I'd give it 1,000%. Like I had a couple decades where I couldn't do it because single moms with no child support can't exactly be professional musicians. But when my son was 12, I was stepping back in. My son's now 28. And I was like 1 step forward, 3 steps back. But when my mom died, she had Alzheimer's. That's when I decided, 1,000%. And the majority of my albums have been released in the last 10 years.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I hate to have to wrap this up, but we're at that time, Linda. And I want to thank you for being on the podcast. Very informational and beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate what you're doing, uplifting and supporting and showcasing independent artists.
That's what it's about. That's right. You heard it, everybody, on podcast land, what Linda Marks had to say. Check out Linda Marks on all of the platforms out there. Listen to that music. Go to YouTube and check out the videos. They're just heartwarming, and it'll hit you in the heart. It will. So everybody out there, me and Linda are going to say, see ya next time. Right, Linda? Tell everybody what you...
Adios. Hasta luego.
There we go. All right, everybody, podcast land. Till the next show. Check out the past. Check out the future. It's a great shows coming up. Thank you, Linda Marks. I will talk to you very soon, and I'll get this link to you, okay?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Al.
Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
I look forward to seeing you in person in Atlanta.
All right, I hear that. See you, Linda. Take care.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.